Hey, Green Machine friends and fans of fun. Before we start this, we want to remind everyone that we are 2 weeks out from a week and a half out from our big mini-con event that's going to be in Rasputin Records. And that will be here at the Newpark Mall, and that's the 27th and 28th. So we just want to remind everyone, we're calling it NewCon Fest, right?
NewCon Fest.
NewCon Fest. It sounds like a Fallout convention. Like, hey, Fallout games, not 76, because that game sucks.
How about newest communist?
I don't know.
Festus or Saturnales?
NewCon Festivus.
There we go.
Anyways, we got our weekly wrap up for all of our comic reviews. And I have Starbucks because my throat's about to go. Yeah. Let's start off with Vampirella. And this is Vampirella number 1. This sort of centers around her dealing with mortality and being back in our realm. And she pretty much wakes up after a plane crash, and she explains that she's have to deal with this other guy who pretty much won a bet with the devil, and the bet was that he would never die, but meanwhile he's constantly in a state of like necrosis, because you don't really win bets with the devil. He gets his due no matter what. So
even if you're lucky.
yeah, so it was an interesting read. It wasn't the best of the week, I'm gonna say that. It was weird what they were doing with some of the characters. I don't even know. It just wasn't my cup of tea, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Do you think our horror readers would like it?
Maybe it's not. I don't know. They were getting a little weird with one of the characters, and that's the best I can do without going into details. It's just sort of questionable and weird. But yeah, so Vampirella, it's a number 1 if you really, really want to jump on Vampirella, and I know she's got some big fans out there, so people are gonna jump in on it. It's fresh out of Dynamite, so it was okay. It wasn't a terrible read, it was just strange. There you go. Yeah. Next book that I really want to talk about is Usagi, and we knew from Usagi there are certain characters with Usagi, and I never know, is it pronounced Usagi or Usagi?
I think it's Usagi.
I used to always call it Usagi Yojimbo. That's how I called it. But, I don't know, Usagi, I'm going to get it right one way, but, so there are certain characters that are always involved. You know, if you have Jin the Rhino, that it's going to be an action story. You know, if you have the detective with the sword breaker, fork thing, yeah, that it's going to be a mystery. And there's another character that whenever you see him, he's pretty much like a samurai wizard, sort of. Whenever you see him, it's going to be an occult story. And that's what this is. This is continuation for the occult story. More importantly, it's a really, really good showing from Sakai. It's what I like seeing him do, which is usually like a 6 to 12 book like storyline that goes into details. Like, he's really good at telling these grand stories, and that's what I like from him. So they didn't play around. He didn't jump in and give us like a couple one-shots before he dove into a plot line. He jumped right in. So this is continuing on, and this involves, I think it was demonic puppet makers. So a puppet maker with a puppet show that is so realistic, and it turns out that it might be demons in play. So that's pretty creepy. Like,
I don't like that.
yeah, that's some good creepy stuff.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like, what was it, Puppet Master? Yeah. So, that's Usagi number 2, and you need to jump in on this. It's good. And somebody needs to tell us if it's Usagi or Usagi, because I'm just going to pronounce it wrong until someone corrects me. Next is Superior Spider-Man, and this book opens with good old Doc Ock getting the key to the city of San Francisco. And they call him the San Francisco Spider-Man, which of course he corrects and says like, no, it's the Superior Spider-Man, and you people are stupid. And then he just like leaves, and that's what's going on. So it turns out that old Doc has got a case of maybe he's seen too much, and he's sort of dealing with trauma. And for the first time in his life, he's feeling regretful over people dying, because usually he's used to doing things that are pretty selfish. Like, all he ever worried about was himself. And now that's changing, and he's changing as a character, and that is good to see. Like, this is some good writing. It was a really fun read. More importantly, there is a really angry, like, 18th century guy who's pedaling around on a flying bike and stuff, and he's mad at those gosh darn hipsters. And it's it's a very San Francisco theme, I'd say. I had a good time with it. So, anyways, the Superior Spider-Man. This is issue number 9. Go check this out if you're a Marvel fan. You'll like it. I promise. Next is Nightwing, and this is. We've got the nice banner. They learned from Rebirth that if you put a really nice, cool-looking banner on here, people are gonna buy it.
It's true.
And so you're the villain, the offer, and this centers around Nightwing, and more importantly, it centers around Talon, who is tied to Grayson. Isn't it like his dad or something? It's like William Cobb. William Cobb. I forget it. How was it? I can make your grandson. It's his granddad. That's who it was. William Cobb was his granddad. I could never remember how it worked out. Sorry, guys.
Well, he's a roller coaster inventor from the 1917s.
Or a roller coaster inventor. I don't think that's... Well, maybe. I mean, they were acrobats. But William Cobb is Talon, and that centers around Talon. There's a reason for him in play, and we all know from pretty much all the comics on the shelf right now, DC related, that Lex Luthor is giving everyone an offer. Jump on board with Doom's mantra, and you'll get free toys to destroy the world. And so that's pretty much what's going on. And it's a good read. It's actually this is one of the more stronger Nightwing titles as of late, and it's mostly because I don't know. I don't like the new Nightwings. I think it's
getting a little played out, man.
Well, and maybe I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, I know that some of them are going to die and it's going to happen, and maybe I'm just like, just get it over with.
Yeah, maybe they're just trying to develop that character bond with the reader.
Maybe.
It ain't coming.
Yeah.
We know it's going to happen.
Well, in this issue, though, Grayson, like, jumps off a building, and one of the other ones is like, damn, jumping off from seven stories up, are you insane? He was like... This is Grayson, man. So, anyways, Nightwing 62, it was actually a better showing this week than it's been for the last couple of months. So I had a pretty good time with it. Next is Star Wars, Dr. Aphra. And my God, they sent us so much Dr. Aphra. I have no idea why they sent us so much Dr. Aphra. I don't remember ordering this much Dr. Aphra. But good news, it was dope. Yeah, it was a pretty good showing. So we know she's sort of dealing with the fact that she doesn't want to side with the rebels because the rebels are planning a weapon that is just as destructive as the Death Star. And yeah, so she goes back and forth, and she kind of sees that both sides of the fence are a little tainted at times, and so she's coming to these conclusions herself. And more importantly, there's a Wookiee in play, and I like her Wookiee that she hangs out with. So,
what's the Wookiee name? Do we get a name? Is there a reference to the
we
old
do
canon?
get a name, but I'll be darned if I could remember it. I'm not
It's
gonna.
not a reference to the old canon stuff.
No, but I can't remember names to save my life. It is a Wookiee with a scar, which is pretty cool, actually. So yeah, Dr. Aphra, a pretty darn good read. If you're a Star Wars fan, come check this out. We got plenty of copies, trust me. And anyways, you should be on board with Dr. Aphra anyways, because I've heard she might play a role in the Galaxy's Edge. So y'all should know who she is, and don't wait for a movie to come out to tell you that this character's cool. Trust me, she's cool.
Just your old boy Steve.
Yeah. Y'all should trust me more often, because I've been telling people for years that old Moon Knight is a dope character, and nobody listens to me. They're like, "What? Who is Moon Knight?" And now we're getting him in Phase 4. So everybody's going to know. Like, trust me, everybody's going to be a Moon Knight fan. Like, your cousin that you don't talk to but every 5 years, like, he's going to pop up on Facebook and be like, I've been a Moon Knight fan since 1994. Yeah, right.
It's like that meme with time travelers going back in time. Is Moon Knight famous yet?
Who's Moon Knight?
Okay, we can literally be at any
Okay, next is Captain Marvel, and we actually don't have a lot of these, but I wanted to review it because I saw an article come up about this, and real life comic shop, and people were interested in what we were doing. So, anyways, I really wanted to review Captain Marvel this week because I saw an article that there was some good stuff going on. And so I checked it out, but we don't have a lot of copies. What this issue basically centers around is Captain Marvel has been dimed out as being part Kree, and because of that, there's a whole bunch of people who feel like she should go back to her planet.
Ooh.
And they have protest signs, and somebody has written a hit piece on her, and it's, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going there.
Familiar.
They're going there, and I think for good reason because of our current political climate. But, so the comic itself is actually a really good showing, and there's a new character that looks like a knockoff Captain Marvel called Star. That's a weird name for a superhero. Just call her flat out Star.
Okay.
Nothing else. Star it is. I do kind of like the knockoff Captain Marvel's outfit. I don't know. Is it fair to call it? She looks like a knockoff Captain Marvel. Like
Generic?
there's no other way to put it. And she sort of shows up and helps out, and everybody's like, "Who is this person?"
Lieutenant Marvelous.
She's like, "I'm Star. I'm new." And they're like, "Oh, she's new."
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, there was good reason. I read that article that said that people should be checking it out. Something kind of cool is going on, and it seems like something kind of cool is going on. Like, I had a pretty good time with it. More importantly, the art was top tier in this issue. I had a really good time with the art, too. So, Captain Marvel number 8. If you're a Marvel fan, go check this out. It's a pretty good showing. Next is Teen Titans. This is more Year of the Villain, The Offer, and this centers around, the Teen Titans have been dealing with Lobo. Lobo wants answers about his daughter. And
Lobo needs his spinach.
Lobo needs his, yeah, Lobo needs his spinach. So he has been showing up and trying to figure out, what is going on with his daughter Crush. And meanwhile, like, man, Lobo as your dad's a pretty bad day, because he just beats the crap out of you and then beats the crap out of your friends and then doesn't really pretend he's even trying to find answers. It's kind of messed up. So that's a terribly abusive relationship. But she was already abandoned by him in the first place. Like, wasn't she thrown down on Earth and then she was found at Burning Man is like her backstory?
Exactly.
It's the weirdest backstory.
It was like raised by hippies.
Raised by hippies who found me at Burning Man. But so of all the DC books this week, I think the storyline for this one was a little weak. There's not much rhyme or reason as to why Lobo is being this way, and the Teen Titans are just sort of smack back, hit him back type deal, and it wasn't the best storyline. And that's not to say that I haven't had a good time up until this point, but this issue felt a little weak. The art, however, was on point. I think the artist, Chang, is always on point with his Teen Titans stuff. So anyways, go check this out if you're a Teen Titans fan. If you're anyone else, I would say this issue itself is wholly skippable. Next, and keep in mind, it all ties to the Year of the Villain. So if you're obsessed with collecting all the books related to that, each one of these has an offer at the end. So next is Aquaman. Black Manta returns. And it seems like this whole issue would be about Black Manta, and you'd be totally wrong. Completely wrong. Unfortunately, this whole issue is about Arthur Curry returning, which I guess that's not unfortunate. That's pretty fortunate. He's been away on a mystical, what would you call it? Like a seaman's fairy tale.
Yes.
The
actual Odyssey.
The actual Odyssey. It felt like a folk tale centering around the ocean is what it felt like. And he'd been away for, how many issues was that thing? It felt like it should have been 2 or 3 issues, and it was like 10. But he's back. He shows back up in Maine. He's happy to be home. People are cheering him. Wonder Woman comes to him to find some answers. And then finally, Black Manta makes his appearance for like the last page. So, Black Manta returns? Kind of.
I mean, it's not a lie.
It's not a lie. That's true. But Aquaman 50, I had a pretty good time. This is mostly, this is a wrapping up of the previous event. And there's some mystery involving a lighthouse in this, too, which is kind of cool to see. So we'll see how that plays out. What you do get for Aquaman 50, though, I got to tell you, is this is a meaty book for a comic. Like, this This is about half a trade. It feels like there's a lot of pages to this sucker. So $4.99, you get a pretty big issue. Next is the Eisner Award nominee, Immortal Hulk.
Oh.
And Immortal Hulk has been amazing. It has been one of the best comics on the shelf, and I think it's really a tribute to Ewing. And what was the artist before this current artist? Do you remember his name? I'm just gonna look back here and double check. Bennett. Bennett.
Joe Bennett.
Is it? Joe Bennett.
Joseph Bennett.
All right, so Bennett's art is amazing, and me being the art snob that I am, immediately noticed that the art was different. This is Bodenheim, and did not have the best time with this art. So I feel like I have to warn you, the art in Immortal Hulk has changed for whatever reason. I think maybe, I don't know, this is issue 21, so maybe old Bennett needed a break for a few issues. Let's hope he comes back to it, because his art was just to die for, in my opinion. But Immortal Hulk, Ewing's writing is still on point. This sort of centers around the leader of the secret government echelon tier, whatever it's called, that has been pretty much harassing Hulk and all his buddies.
Delta Raiders.
Yeah. And he's going to get the body of the Abomination, the combination of A-Bomb and Abomination that Gamma Force went and picked up. Gamma Force. They were called what? It was Alpha Force, Alpha Flight.
Alpha Flight, yeah.
It was now it's Gamma Flight. Gamma Flight.
Gamma Flight.
That's
Yeah,
what it's
that's
called.
what it is.
Gamma Flight.
That's
Man, they've changed so much that it's just hard to keep up.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, is this a good read? Yes, this is a very good read. This is still the same Immortal Hulk story. I just got to tell you that the art felt a bit, compared to what we've been seeing, the art felt a bit dumbed down. Not dumbed down. That's a terrible word, because this artist is still amazing. The art felt different. So that's what we're gonna say. Different details. Yeah, I don't ever want to insult an artist on this show. If I don't identify with an art, it doesn't mean the art is not good. It just means that I have bad taste. I'm not feeling it. Yeah. Next is Jughead the Hunger versus Vampironica. And, in Jughead's world, Jughead the Hunger's world, Veronica there is a vampire. But Vampironica got transported to this world. And in Jughead's world, Archie and Betty are pretty much werewolf hunters, I guess it is.
Yeah.
And now they got to deal with vampires, and old Pops became a vampire. And that's where all this picks up. Like, they're all at each other's throats. But you know what would make this comic perfect? Let me ask you.
Time traveling?
No. So let's look at. So Betty and Archie are essentially vampire werewolf hunters, correct?
Yep.
Check that off your list.
Okay.
Okay. Jughead is a werewolf. Check that off your list. Pops is a vampire, which that's just funny. Like, okay. Okay. And then Veronica's a vampire. Who should make an appearance?
Well, Moose?
No.
Because he's
No. But who else should make an appearance? What spooky Archie series character?
666?
No, you're dancing around it though.
Yeah. Sabrina.
Yeah, Sabrina should make an appearance.
Absolutely.
And which Sabrina should it be? Should it be the new campy one, or should it be the
Old school?
we can't say old school because it was like the last 10 years.
Universe-ending one?
Yeah, the universe, the Archie horror one. Which one do you think it should be?
Well, I think they're going to go.
You get your
horror.
wish.
saw a
So
picture.
go
I
pick
saw a
this up.
picture.
Go pick this up. It's great. It's great. It's getting better. I've been having the best time with this. If you like the spooky stuff, you really can't go wrong with this Jughead the Hunger versus Vampironica. It's a great read so far. And more importantly, we're going to get... I'm going to get my favorite version of Sabrina in this. So, yeah, go check that out.
Oh, wow. There was a C cover that totally looks good.
Man, we have to talk about City of Bane, Batman. And more importantly, I think we shouldn't talk about City of Bane too terribly much because it's going to spoil it. And there's a lot of stuff that when you're reading this, you need to sort of come to terms with. I think when you're reading it, at first, it's going to feel like you're reading a different universe of Batman. And I think that's intentional. Like, I think that's what King was going for. But you'll just have to see how that plays out. Meantime, we can talk about the previous issue. So the previous issue had Batman and his father going across the desert to Ra's al Ghul or Raish, but I'm gonna say Ra's, and if I'm wrong, no, if you pronounce it Raish, you're wrong. So they were going across the desert to Ra's al Ghul's what is it? The oasis that
in the middle of the desert.
in the middle of the desert where you can trade a life to bring somebody back to life. And he had the coffin of Martha Kent. And Thomas Wayne's point was that if Bruce's father and mother are both alive, then that unmakes Batman. And so they pretty much go across the whole desert, and meanwhile they're telling that Russian fairy tale that Bruce was obsessed with as a kid, needing to know that somebody climbed out of the pit, and whoever climbed out of the pit in the fairy tale. And so they get into the pit, the different pit, not the proverbial pit, the actual pit, and they're going to go resurrect Martha Kent. And Thomas Wayne thinks he's broken Batman. He's convinced he's broken Batman.
Martha Wayne, I hate to correct you there.
Did I say Kent?
You said Kent. So many Marthas.
Too many Marthas. What about Martha?
How do you know the name?
Okay. Okay. Martha Wayne. So Thomas Wayne thinks that he has broken his son. He thinks he's broken Batman. He's broken Bruce.
Yes.
So he's convinced of this. And meanwhile, Bruce is not putting up a fight. Bruce is going with him to sort of resurrect his mom. And they get to the point, and Bruce at one point they get into a fight, and Bruce throws Thomas across, and he smashes the coffin, and there's just rocks in it.
Yep.
There's just rocks in it. And Bruce says that I buried her somewhere out in the desert, and you'll never find her. And then he says, and you know what? Meanwhile, Thomas is screaming, but we broke you! And he's like, dude, you're not my dad. I watched my parents die. You'll never be my parent. Ooh. So this is the battle of the Batmans right now, and it's going into City of Bane. But what's going on is Thomas Wayne is convinced he's broken him. He's convinced he's broken his mind, and I think we're finally seeing that Bruce Wayne has not tipped his hand at all this whole time.
The master of deception all
Yeah.
the way through.
So we're going into City of Bane, and City of Bane is it's super important. First of all, you should get the last issue because it was amazing. But City of Bane is super important because I can't spoil too much, but it basically, what Bane is doing is taking the one thing from Bruce Wayne that Bruce Wayne could never control. And if you know his character, you know what I'm talking about.
That's a harsh way of saying it, but it's so true.
It's true. So, you need to go pick up City of Bane. It's a really, really cool read. But more importantly, I don't know, I'm a King fan. I'm a giant Tom King fan. I can't get enough of his stuff. But City of Bane, Batman 75 is an awesome read.
Scratching your head going, WTF.
Yeah, you will be confused for about half the book, and then you will be blown away. And it's that simple.
Oh, God.
More importantly, we need to talk about Alfred for a second here.
Yo.
Because
Nice.
Alfred is such a badass.
You know what? Guys like Alfred, I don't think get enough credits due because they always paint him off as the side guy, the apprentice guy, or not apprentice guy, but always off to the side. But really,
yeah.
He's kind of the puppeteer.
In King's Run, he has been the guy who has delivered some of the best one-liners some of the best in-your-face stuff. And I love that Tom King gives him the respect that he needs. Next, we're going to talk about the weirdest book of the week. Well, it's not the weirdest. It was just a little strange. And that's Wonder Woman. Come back to me. I'm not sure why it's divided into two stories, but the first story has Wonder Woman flying off to a wildfire that, that's pretty topical considering California's on fire 13 months out of the year. So she's going to help firemen at a wildfire, and meanwhile she starts talking to animals in a very Disney way.
Excellent.
So I thought it was weird. But then eventually she has beers with the firemen. So it was the strangest read ever. And then the second story centers around the Bermuda Triangle. And Steve Trevor's plane has been lost in the Bermuda Triangle. So they go to find that out. And I think that is where the story actually picks up. So I think Come Back to Me starts there, and I think that's what we're going to see over the next couple of issues. But the beginning was just sort of a strange, very Disney-esque version of Wonder Woman. And so I don't know. I had an all right time with it, but it was kind of a strange opening. So yeah, Wonder Woman, Come Back to Me. If you're a Wonder Woman fan, go pick this up. If you're a DC fan, you might like this. I think you have to like sort of the older, campier style of comics, is what it felt like.
That's its own standalone thing. That's not part of the main continuity, right?
Yeah. And then we need to talk about this. I don't know what to talk about without spoiling it. There's so much. Silver Surfer Black, Donny Cates. So if you know anything about Donny Cates, you know he usually saves the last page for the big shocker. Mm-hmm. And he's the king of... and I wouldn't say the king. I think the king right now of shocking last pages would be Ewing from Immortal Hulk. Yeah. But Donny Cates is a pretty close second. And so the last issue had Silver Surfer falling through that black hole that we all know was tied to the original, or the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes. And he came out on the other side, and he wound up fighting these creatures that were defending something. And he opened up whatever the room was that they were protecting, and out came Null, the god of symbiotes. So, man, was that a mistake? So, yeah, we're kind of going from there, and it's picking up. And in this issue somebody is talking to Silver Surfer while he is trying to deal with Null. And on top of that, he's going over his timeline, and he realizes that he's been to the planet of symbiotes before, and they hated him, and he couldn't figure out why. And it's because he was there in the past, and he freed Null at one point. So he's dealing with that, and somebody is talking to him, and it isn't revealed who is talking to him, but I'm going to show Yogi off camera.
Get the...
So it was a pretty cool... That last page of Donny Cates is always like a big shocker. So anyways, Silver Surfer Black, you need to go pick this up. It's a pretty cool read so far. So next is another book that I didn't realize I would love as much as I did, and that is Loki. And this comes on the heels of War of Realms. What do we know? He died, he came back, he killed his father from the inside out, I guess you could say.
Literally swallowed by him.
And then he carved his way out. And so he's back alive, and he's taken over the throne of, what's the name of that realm? Jotunheim? Jotunheim, the land of the frost giants. And it's his first night of being king of Jotunheim. So what do you think Loki does?
He leaves Jotunheim.
Of course! He goes to Vegas and starts to... Well, I think he went to a club it wasn't Vegas. It was like a club in New York. But he goes and throws some dice. And that's very Loki. This whole book is very Loki. Who is the writer? Kibble Smith. Kibble Smith definitely identifies well with this character. And it was a really, really good read. I loved being in the voice of Loki. On top of that, Thor goes looking for him and is like, hey, man, you got to do what's best for your people now. You're a king now. Like, you got to knuckle down. And Loki's like, dude, you sound so much like your dad now. And he's like, well, I'm the All-Father now. Like, it's such a good exchange between those two. But the writing is just on point. The art was really, really great. The artist is Bazaldua. Do you know that artist? I don't know that artist. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. Somebody's going to be like, that's I'm sorry, man. I'm ruining your name. Bazaldua. I don't know this name. I'm sorry. But both the writers and artists do a really good job. The Curiels, the cover artist, they all did a really, really grand job with this book. It's a great book. Come check it out. Loki #1. I might actually subscribe to this. It's that good. All right. Next is The Quiet Kind. I have no idea if this is actually a story. Do you know? Have you heard of The Quiet Kind before? Because it seems like it's a one shot, but there's also characters in it that like almost need to be explained in something else. So it centers around a fox and a snake, and the fox is a trickster, and both are talking creatures, and the fox goes and gives somebody the spark of fire. not the literal fire, but the spark of something to do like great things, like control reality pretty much. And there are other people that can do that, and they all sort of encounter each other. And then there's one of them's dealing with a bully, and it's a very confusing mess of a one shot. That's not to say I didn't have a good time with it. I think I need to reread it maybe a couple of times. And the art was really, really gorgeous. Like, the art was amazing. But I wasn't quite sure where they were going with the story. Like, maybe there was some mythology I missed, or maybe these are characters from another storyline that I missed. It really reminded me of that Scotty Young, what's that magic one we had on the show?
Oh.
Middle West?
Oh, yeah, Middle West, yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Middle West, both in art and story. But I'm honestly, I have to tell you that I was a little confused with the storyline, and I think I need to read it a couple times to get it. I think it's a one-shot. When the sun rises, you'll have the power to give the universe the same misery it's given you. That's a horrible premise right there. What a tortured artist this must be. Anyways, it's on Dark Horse. That cover has like Jen Bartel colors to it, the pink and blue sort of.
Sure.
But anyway, so the art was really good. The storyline was a little confusing. What do you get from this book? Well, this is a $5.99 book, but you get 56 pages. This is almost a graphic novel, and the story wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. It was just a little confusing. You might need to reread it like 2 or 3 times. But I didn't hate it, and that says a lot in this day and age. Like, a lot of Dark Horse books, to me, have fallen off. The screen is closed. The screen has closed. Did you just swear?
Yep. That means you didn't. When it closes, that means.
Hey, our camera went a little wild and decided to die on us.
Yay.
So, I hope our mic's working.
Yeah,
Our mic's working. So I was covering this, and it's basically a bunch of random people get chaos magic, and then sort of have to figure out how to navigate that and deal with bullies with chaos magic. It's a weird mess. That's all I'm gonna say. If you buy this, you are getting a lot of book for your price. The art is amazing. The story is a little weird. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
So yeah. So I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it. Next is Justice League, and I think I incorrectly called this Snyder's Justice League, because Snyder's been doing most of the run, right? But this is Tinian the Fourth. So this is Tinian, and this picks up on the offer, and pretty much the offer is now going not to any of the other Justice League members, strictly to Martian Manhunter, because it turned out, we found out a few issues back, that Martian Manhunter and Lex had some encounters growing up, like knew each other growing up, and then they had their memories wiped. So, yeah.
Okay.
So, Lex is pretty much getting the offer, and it's going from there. I can't talk too much about this book without spoiling it, but all of this Justice League stuff has been great. I mean, I think I love Justice League to begin with, but ever since that 3-generation punch that they threw, like 3 or 4 issues back, well, that was the most amazing. Oh, I've got it down here. This issue, Superman threw a 3-generation punch, and we're just gonna show it because it's like right here. It's so good, dude. Yeah. So somebody didn't pick up their book, so now their book is now my book because I wanted this issue. But yes. So, Justice League, all this Justice League stuff right now is really, really good. So if you're a DC fan, you should be on board with this. If you're a Justice League fan, no doubt you're on board with this. If you're Marvel and you want to dip your toes in some DC that you might like, Justice League, you really, really can't go wrong. I think this one, the thing I can spoil is the Justice League goes to Cord. Cord is the antimatter universe, so... Yeah, so they go there, and they pretty much, they're trying to find the anti-monitor is what they're doing. That's all I can say without spoiling anything else. It's a pretty good read, though. The art is on point. The art has always been on point. Who is it, Fernandez? Yeah, outstanding job, dude.
Is that thing, right? That's over there, right?
What? Oh, yeah. But that's actually not there in this issue.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next is Uncanny X-Men number 22. Now, if you don't know, Uncanny X-Men 21 had a misprint in it, and we didn't get it for like 2 weeks. The reason we didn't get it was because they started recalling it because half the issue was Uncanny X-Men 21, and the other half was New Agents of Atlas, which is a weird misprint, and we had all these people like freaking out trying to find copies of it, like coming here bothering us. And I gotta be honest, I don't think issues like that with misprints like that they're ever worth that much money. Not those in particular. But you know, best of luck to you all who are trying to get it. This is the end of Rosenberg's run, and there's a few things to discuss. One of my favorite characters that has been Rosenberg has been putting forth most of the material for does not make it to the end. Oh, it breaks my heart. He would be my favorite mutant, and I'm not a huge mutant fanboy. Most of this run has been outstanding. I'm kind of disappointed that it's coming to an end, but it makes sense with the House of X, Powers of X. So this is a wrap up, and they sort of do something unique to kind of protect mutant kind. It's not something.
Bless you.
Woo. I need to blow my nose on camera. Sorry. Allergies. At least California is not really on fire too bad right now.
Yeah.
So usually my allergies are worse then. Anyways, so this Uncanny X-Men is amazing, really, really good. It's a good wrap up. But I've been a fan of this run, and as somebody who's not really too into mutants, God, I'm gonna look like an idiot just wiping my nose on the camera for like the last 2 minutes. As someone who's not super into mutants, I had a really, really good time with this run. Both the art and the writing were amazing. So go check this out. And if for nothing else, you gotta pour one out for my man who dies. Very sad. But you know what? I don't know. Maybe he lived. You never know. Next is the Orville, and if you haven't been watching this show has been a better show. It's been a better Star Trek than the current Star Trek, and that's pretty much how I'm going to word it. More importantly, I think they added a real human element to a lot of the sort of space science fiction that we never quite get to see, and it was just really nice to see that sort of thing in the show, and the comic really echoes that. It's pretty much like watching an episode of the show. In comic form. So I had a really, really good time with it. The art was kind of, it felt like the Orville. I think the artist did an alright job. It's just sort of that, I don't know, I didn't really identify too well with the art. It wasn't terrible though. That's all I can say. But
reminds me of that Stargate Atlantis that they did. The artwork was very almost generic, but you could tell who you were looking at.
Yeah, it's almost generic, but I can tell who I'm looking at. That's a really good way to word it. So I didn't hate it. I didn't love the art. The story was great. I had a really good time with it. If you want to pick up something, you basically haven't had enough Orville in your life, then go check out this comic because it's a pretty good showing. Next is Transformers Ghostbusters, and that's the Ghost of Cybertron Part 2. And so what do we know? So Transformers got wiped out by Gozer. Gozer the Traveler showed up on their planet and wiped out their planet. And it was mostly Decepticons. The Autobots had fled. And meanwhile, the Decepticons sent a ghost of Starscream, which is a nod to Starscream being a ghost in the old series.
Yep.
And so they sent the ghost of Starscream to Earth. They also sent Ectotron to Earth to scout stuff out, and he became the Ghostbusters Ecto-1 is what it was. And so meanwhile, like, the Ghostbusters are just sort of doing their thing in the first issue, and Starscream shows up and he's like, "Oh, Earthlings, I need your help." Or he's like, "Humanoids, I need your help." And they're like, hit him. Like, immediately trap him. Like, they don't even play around. It's so good. So this is more of that good stuff. Whoever is writing this really, really knows their material well. And it feels like Ghostbusters crossing over with Transformers. It's exactly how it should be. I would watch this movie. I would watch this cartoon. It would be amazing. I would love it. So yeah, if you like either of these franchises, you cannot go wrong with this issue. It's outstanding. So go pick this up. Don't hesitate, because I think, did we sell out of the first one?
Yeah, first one's gone.
First one's gone. So it's not too late to jump in on this, and it's a really, really good read. Next is Collapser, and this is DC's Young Animal. The Young Animal imprint is back.
Oh.
I didn't even know that.
Wait, I thought they were only going to have 3 labels now.
Well, maybe Young Animal's one of them, but I don't remember Young Animal. I haven't read a comic from Young Animal in a long time. So anyways, DC's Young Animal imprint, this is Collapser. This centers around a guy who gets the superpower of summoning black holes out of his chest. That's weird. It's terribly OP. It's a little weird.
Like the second you throw that out in the atmosphere, we're done.
Yeah, pretty much. You could destroy the whole planet in a heartbeat. Nonetheless, I had a really good time with this book. I thought it was fun. I thought the narration and the writing was good. I was not confused at any point. I had a pretty fun time with it. The art, I will say, I'm still kind of on the fence with the art. The art is almost too gritty for me. You know, it's right on that line of where I don't like it. But it wasn't a bad showing anyways. The artist is Sean Simon and Ilias Kruzas, and then Chris Peter did the cover. I don't know any of these artists, I'm afraid. Nonetheless, Young Animal by Mikey Way. First issue was a pretty good showing. So if you think you'd like to jump on board with a new superhero or a very OP power like summoning black holes, sounds like it's up your alley, this is a pretty good book. I didn't have a bad time with it. I had a good time with it. That's such a weird way to say I had a good time with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just tiptoe around things. Next is Deadpool, and we need to discuss this because this is Scotty Young's last book for Deadpool, which is weird. Only 15 issues for this. No, only 15 from when they relaunched it. Yeah, but nonetheless, it's Scotty Young's last issue with Deadpool, and it's a pretty good comic, I gotta say. I mean, it's a good comic because it wraps up the Deadpool story arc. He has him dealing with Weasel being such a bastard, and Mephisto, which was in play before. But more importantly, there's all these head nods to Scotty Young, like they call him, I think, Baby Covers in this. They're like, oh, Baby Covers is going to be off the project soon.
That would explain the B cover for this one.
Oh, is it a Scotty Young?
It's a Scotty Young.
It's a Scotty Young. There you go. But so I like that stuff. I actually had a really good time with this story. The story's wild. I mean, most of the Deadpool stories are pretty wild. This one's no exception. It goes all over the place. But you get a lot of book for $4.99. This is a rather thick comic. It's a good story. The art was all on point, and more importantly, there's just too many funny one-liners. So if you like Deadpool, you really can't go wrong with this. Plus, it's the last one that Scotty Young is on the Deadpool brand with.
He made sure that there were no kids in that cover. So
he made sure that there were no kids in that?
In the B cover, which is not here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at any rate, let's talk about Invaders. And it's weird because Invaders has the Carnage symbiote on it. If you didn't know, for the last, I think, 3 months, the Carnage symbiotes have been hidden on certain titles. And so they'll be, it's all the Marvel titles, but it'll be, some of them will have it and some of them won't. And they don't tell you which ones are coming in, so we'll get like 3 with the symbiotes and some without it. It's kind of weird, especially for the Invaders, because I don't know how that's going to play out. So if you haven't been reading Invaders, the quick wrap-up on this comic is that Namor has struck first, and... No, I don't think he struck first. I think a general struck first and went after Atlantis. So Namor turned around and used a secret weapon, and that secret weapon was to turn an entire American town into water-breathing Atlanteans. So the U.S. is not happy. More importantly, Tony Stark is not happy because he thinks that Cap has pretty much enabled this by not taking out Namor sooner. So, yeah.
I feel like this is a very drowned-to-earth event.
It seems similar. However, he's done it more than once. Like, just to the U.S.? No, I don't think so. That's not Namor's style. He doesn't blame one country. He blames all of us. So that's going to play out. Honestly, it was actually a pretty good read. I didn't have a good time with the first couple of Invaders. I think it was a really slow burn for me. is what I think it was. It was okay, but more importantly, I didn't like the art. I thought the art was too gritty, and I think they've dialed it back a bit because it seemed much improved. Is all I'm gonna say. So yeah, Invaders number 7, Zdarsky, Magno, Geis, and Guimaras. I'm pronouncing all these names wrong, but nonetheless, good showing, guys. Invaders number 7. Go pick this up if you're a Marvel fan. If you decide you want to start with Invaders, I maybe go back an issue so you're not too terribly confused. But this was still a pretty good showing. Yeah. Next is Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. And, well, this is a weird book. The Lois Lane one felt like a detective story, like she was getting to the bottom of the case type deal. Yeah. Jimmy Olsen. This one felt an awful lot like Jimmy Olsen of All-Star Superman, where he's just sort of like messing around and like, you know, he gets stuff done, but he's at the same time being pretty funny about it. It felt like that. At times there was confusing stuff, but I went back and reread it, and it was explained. It was just explained in sort of a very casual way. Most of it was good. One thing that I don't remember seeing all that often is one of these stories has Jimmy Olsen in Gotham. Haven't seen that happen very often at all. So, yeah, that was kind of interesting to see. So, Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, is a 12-issue miniseries, or it says maxi series. So that's DC's little trend. I don't know. It's hard for me to recommend this book because I don't know anyone that is like, yeah, I love Jimmy Olsen. I'm going to go out and get a Jimmy Olsen t-shirt. Like, he's a great side character, not the best main character. So if you like this sort of thing, you know who you are. You should go pick this up. Anyone else, it's kind of skippable. I don't think Lex is going to make Jimmy Olsen an offer. I don't think that's going to happen. So, Next is The Punisher, Acts of Evil. And this is the Punisher annual. And if you know, some annuals tie in, some annuals don't tie in. They go back and forth. However, this annual is the best team-up you never knew you wanted. And that is The Punisher and... Who do you think The Punisher would team up with?
J. Jonah Jameson?
Did you know this?
I can see the cover.
Oh. Is it on the... Oh, he's in the window! I didn't even notice he was in the window.
Doing? Give me pictures of Spider-Man!
Get me pictures of Spider-Man! Okay, so I didn't know that I wanted this team up, but the team up was amazing. Like at one point, Punisher even says, "Sorry, J. Jonah." Like, you know, sorry, like a polite friend. It was awesome. I didn't know I wanted that team up, but I had a really good time with it. So they're basically dealing with terrorists that's try to hijack a rocket, and accidentally they get shot into space, and they've got to sort of recover from there. And I had a great time with it. It was really fun. So, anyways, Punisher Acts of Evil, the annual of Punisher Annual. Go pick this up. It's a good read if you're a Marvel fan. The art was kind of fun. Like, at times it felt almost too gritty, but then it went back to fun. I had a good time with this book.
You know, ever since J. Jonah Jameson like teamed up with Spider-Man.
Oh, that Peter Parker spectacular?
Yeah, I've been like kind of on team J. Jonah Jameson.
Well, I've always liked him as a character. Like, he's that giant, loud, hard ass that you kind of love. He's like that drill sergeant that you were a little scared of when you went to basic training, but then you respected him by the end. Yeah. All right, Age of X-Men Omega, and I don't think I've hit it all that I hated this Age of X-Men stuff. It started out okay. I was having an okay time, and then it just went too long. Too much utopia, dystopia in my in my comic. I don't know. My Fruitopia. You remember that drink? I used to drink Fruitopia all the time. Anyways, so this is the wrap-up to the Age of X-Men stuff. Obviously, the utopian world was a bit fake, and they figured it out. And, well, that's all I can say without spoiling it. If you've been reading this Age of X-Men stuff, you should go pick this up, because it's the end of it, and you'll probably want the last book on it. That's about it. But I don't know too many people that were reading it. We weren't selling it very well, were we?
No, that one kind of...
Yeah. It started out strong. It seemed like it was going to be an okay story, and then it just was too long and too not enough fun stuff, I guess you could say. So, whatever. I mean, it has X-Man in it. So, yeah. Next is Pearl, and we are on issue number 11. So if you don't know, Pearl has gone to Japan and met with her uncle, who is the head of Yakuza. Yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember my gangs, my Japanese gangs. So the head of Yakuza, and he basically gives her his blessing to go take over the business in San Francisco. And then the problem is that she's got to go deal with those the porn twins. I can't. The Endo twins is their name, and they basically have a porn empire. They built a porn empire, is how they made their money, and drugs and stuff like that. But they're dark, and they see some. We had a camera issue, but we're back. Honestly, Pearl is a wild book in the sense that the art is so different from anything out there. Like, it just feels like watercolors dancing when you read it. That's the best way to describe it. And the dialogue itself too is so well done and so different from anything out there that's any comic on the shelf. That they go so good together. So if you aren't reading Pearl, you really need to check out this book. And I think honestly this is a good jumping off point, because I wasn't confused and I missed the last few issues. So come check this out. Pearl number 11 is great. Next is Teen Titans Go. And this is, well, it's a Teen Titans Go book. And if you hadn't read The Last Young Justice, they were jumping from universe to universe, and they wound up in the Teen Titans Go universe. And it was, yep.
What?
Yep, and it was awesome.
That's what I get for not reading.
Yeah, it was really great. But anyway, so Teen Titans Go, you kind of know what to expect from this. It's pretty much like the cartoon. It's broken down into, a couple of shorts. And usually they wrap it up by the end. And it's the really, really cutesy sort of, what do you call this art? Kawaii? The kawaii art? That's my worst, awful pronunciation of anything. But nonetheless, Teen Titans Go, it's a good showing. If you got kids in your household, this is the book to pick up for them. This is our damaged copy. That's why it's like dog ears.
Thank you, Diamond.
Yeah, thank you. That wasn't Diamond. That was
Yeah.
UPS. Our UPS driver today was a new UPS driver, and apparently decided it would be a good idea to do baton twirls with our packages
As he's handing them to you.
as he's giving them to me.
Which means that your dad
So
rolled them up to you.
my eye was twitching. Anyways, next is Invader Zim, the world's largest ball of hate. Invader Zim has a task. Everyone in his class has a task. And the task is to keep an inanimate object as a baby for a week. Yeah. Do you remember doing this? With you would do it with an egg?
I did it with an egg.
Yeah, you did it with an egg. They just did it with everything. So he screams at Gurr that he needs a person made of meat. He gives him a meat boy.
Okay.
And then, he decides at the end of the week they have to throw it away, and the teacher's reasoning is to show you that everything dies. Something really dark, because that's how the teacher always is. And so they all go to throw it away, and Zim's like, nope, peace out. He takes his meat baby on the road. Yeah. So it was, I don't know, it's an episode of Invader Zim. That's what it is. The whole thing plays out like an episode of Invader Zim, and I had a pretty good time, so go check this out. There's not much else to say.
Yeah,
It really is like reading the cartoon. Rick and Morty, when I read Rick and Morty, it doesn't hit the same way. I think the Rick and Morty D&D was amazing, but the Rick and Morty comic, it feels like they try to be like the cartoon and they drop the ball.
Yeah, they just came slightly short of
They just always feels like they're just on the verge and they drop the ball.
Dan Harmon's not writing it.
It's because Dan Harmon's not writing it. However, the Invader Zim comic hits it out of the park every single time. I don't know, is Vasquez actually writing this? Oh, no, it's created by him. It's being written by Eric Trueheart. So, but he's close enough, trust me, because if you need more Invader Zim in your life, this is the one to go. What?
Good name, Trueheart.
Trueheart?
True to the heart of the comic.
I guess. Now is a book that I don't understand the love of this book. I don't get it. I didn't hate it. Little Bird is a story about, the world has been hit by an apocalypse, and religion itself has taken over and has become very Gestapo-like, I guess is how you say it. It's very I don't know. It's clearly a dystopia, and Little Bird sort of got some abilities, some magic abilities, can fly and stab things, type deal, and pretty much they're dealing with that other group, and that's the whole premise of the book. And the art is sort of, I don't know. It's not gritty. It's kind of fun art, but it's a little weird at times. And I don't really identify with the art, and I definitely don't identify with the story. But we have people that love this story that like come in and talk about it. Like one of our regulars is like he just loves everything about it, and I don't get it. But we have copies, and it's a wrap up. It's the last book. It was pretty good. I think we need to take a break. Real life comic shop. We had loud voices thrown off my game. Next is, so wait, we talked about Little Bird. Little Bird is, I don't get why people love it. I don't get it. It's not my cup of tea. And I've tried. I've really honestly tried. I think I've read 3 of them, and it just hasn't been my thing. Yeah. Next, we're going to talk about the Archie horror line, and that's Blossom 666. And what a weird story. It's weird. Okay, so basically, the Blossom twins, Cherry, and I can never remember her brother's name. I want to say Chad. It's not Chad. And then she's also got, it turns out they have a secret sibling that they didn't know about. So there's 3 of them, and they're all technically competing to be the Antichrist. And that might include like doing the worst and meanest of things to each other and to people in the town. And that's really how it plays out. And this is pretty much the wrap-up for it. And it was a confusing mess the whole way through. I wanted to so bad like this series because I love everything else Archie horror. But I have not had a good time with, I think, any of the... They were okay. They were okay at best. So if you really, really, really need more Archie horror in your life... go get Vampironica versus Jughead, because this was just barely okay. It was all right. I don't know. The art was good. I do have to say that the art was outstanding. I really did like the art. I don't know. Maybe it's the whole Antichrist theme. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
Could be.
Yeah, I don't know. So Blossom 666 number 5. It's the wrap up for the story. Come get it if you've been on board. Nobody in our store has because it hasn't sold, I don't think, one. So, yeah. Next is a book that we didn't order but just decided it was going to show up, and that's Ragnarok. And this is a weird story. This is the Viking mythos. So this is everything Thor that you know from the Marvel comics, but the actual mythos. So yeah, and there's like the undead soldiers, which are called what are they? Dragals. That sounds pretty Norse. But there's that. There's suitors in it. Like all the actual Norse mythos stuff is in it, and it's the story of Ragnarok. It's, if you need some Viking mythos, come pick this up. The art was pretty good. I didn't hate the art. It was just gritty enough to tell like the story of an apocalyptic story, but not too gritty that it turned me off. The writing was, it was a little weird, but it was okay. I didn't hate it. I had a pretty good time with it. I don't know. I'm guessing they're gonna continue this because it just seemed like the beginning. The main character Thor, like actual Thor in the story, is one of those I'm totally pronouncing it wrong. Drakal. So he's like an undead thing, and he looks really cool. He run around with a hammer and the weird sort of skull face head is kind of dope.
So this has to be after the battle with the serpent, huh?
I have no idea. I don't know enough Norse mythology to say. Most of my Norse mythology comes from Marvel.
Oh.
I know some.
Yeah, because at the end it was just supposed to be Thor and the serpent fighting to the death, and like 2 humans were hiding out in a tree, and then they both get killed, and then the 2 humans emerge. Yeah.
I didn't know. I had no idea. Let's talk about our last book, and we only have the A and C cover, and I saw the B cover, and the B cover's pretty dope too. All these covers are amazing, and that's Blade Runner 2019. And this is, if you don't know, this is cyberpunk dystopia, and if you're not used to cyberpunk, let me break it down for you. I guess the people that birthed cyberpunk were William Gibson, who wrote Neuromancer, and then the original Blade Runner, which was who was it? Ridley Scott?
Yeah.
Was that who made it?
I believe
I can't remember. But what I can tell you about it is cyberpunk dystopia is a high-tech world that is centered around commercialism. And it was inspired by the Reagan era. They thought that as commercialism and capitalism expanded on itself, it would get like that. I think in the new Blade Runner, the way they touch on it is they show like the environmental disasters of the world as well, which is totally different from the old Blade Runner. So this is pretty much the sort of Reagan-esque type cyberpunk, and they're all detective stories. Like usually cyberpunk is a detective story. I think Ramez Nam is continuing that writing standard in books. And so they're always detective stories. They're always like a really high-tech commercialized world. And that's what this is. And it's a really, really good story. I don't think that the main character is a synth yet, but I'm not entirely sure. Most of the synths, I don't think, take a name when they do that job usually. I think Deckard Cain did take a name, but the rest of them don't, right?
No, God, I'm trying to remember.
Wait, was Deckard Cain a synth?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a synth, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a synth, and then he falls in love with the synth woman, and they have a kid. So yeah, this picks up, and there is a true mystery to this. There is some stuff that I wanted to go on about. I mean, I can't spoil too much of it. The main character's got some stuff going on with her body, or her synth body, I guess, and well, maybe is it synth? I don't know if it's synth. I can't confirm it. The world is messed up. On top of that, there's a woman and her daughter have gone missing. So the main character's hired to find them. So it's a really, really good mystery. The art was outstanding. The cover art is outstanding. I had a good time with this. So if you like cyberpunk and you want a little sci-fi in your comics, these books are the ones to read this week. Next, on the back, look at that. Expanse. You haven't even watched The Expanse yet, have you?
Not since here at the shop now.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Okay, so we're going to do our drawing real fast. And let's start with 69. I'm going to say that like Bill and Ted.
Whoa.
69, dude.
Alex Nava.
Oh, he never picked up his books. He doesn't have an account with us anymore. How about 3?
Yo. Arbwiz.
Oh, June. June, you want a poster? Next is 13. Wow, we're getting low numbers now.
Yeah, that's valid. Blue.
Oh, Blue. Esther Vanapal.
Yeah.
You want a poster. And then number 10.
Daniel Keenan.
Danny Keenan, you want a poster. So that is our show for this week. And so next week, not next week, week and a half, we'll have our mini con, and that's going to be once again in the Rasputin Records. That's the 27th and 28th. So come see us, please, and do the dance.